So intrinsic to the just listening model is this idea of compassion-informed approaches because we want to move towards mutuality. And there's lots of language, lots of words we use. So if maybe we can break that down a bit. Mm. So we want to talk about compassion-informed approaches, but the history of how we arrived there feels important. So in mental health world, we used to work from a very, well, we still do, of course, but it originated in a kind of very medicalised understanding of human distress. And then there was that whole era where it was about, that allowed us to think about breeding it out of people and the eugenics movement and stopping people being how they are. And of course that's really failed as a legitimate construct. But we've been left with this medical model, which is really well-intentioned and trying to support and help people. But again, it's not really got us anywhere. We have more mental health problems than we've ever had, thanks to the kind of categorisation and medicalisation of human distress. So in the compassion-informed approach, which was, I think, developed around the setup of just listening with Dr. Beck Wheatley as well, and us. And so we're thinking about how we got to the position where the listener or the therapist or the worker has to be the expert. And how we got there was that once upon a time, someone expressed and behaved in a way that was seen to be abnormal, and the medical doctor was able to decipher what was wrong with them. And of course what happened then is it became all about the expert medical doctor being able to say what's wrong, what are the risks, and what do we need to do. And we stopped seeing the person. So really we just ended up with these labels and these assessments that were no longer about the individual in front of us and their lives. They were about the wisdom of the doctor. So that went on for many, many years. And then more recently we've moved to a trauma-informed model, which is even more well-intentioned, I think, about what's happened to you, not what's wrong with you. How can you move through relationally the difficulties that have occurred into a more well life, if you like, in your own life and recovery. But what's really happened in the modern era for me, and you guys might have views on this, is if you look up trauma therapy now, everyone says we can heal everyone from trauma. So what we've really done is we've got another expert this time saying trauma's damaged your brain, your amygdala, your hippocampus, your da-da-da-da-da, and I know how to help you fix that. So really what we've got is a person who's had some really difficult and probably ongoing difficult life experiences. We've found the expert who can tell the person how to make that better. And so really we end up seeing the person as a product of their trauma and oppression and the risks that go along with it, defined by the expert. So what we were talking about in compassion-informed approach was, what do we need to remember that I can be you and you can be me, and I can't do anything to make anything better for you other than be in human connection and love, compassion. And so we talked about the word love because that seems to be, although it means different things, it seems to be universal, that it conjures up something about humans being together. And so that's where compassion informed came from, about if we can remember that love can exist in the moment of offering justice, then we can remember that either of us could be on either side of the listening or sharing a story. Mm. And that neither of us needs to do anything or categorise anyone or define someone's experience. I don't know if you guys had any thoughts on that.
I have in my mind that a distinction when we talk about compassion-informed as opposed to trauma-informed is that compassion-informed implies there's a responsibility on us to hold our compassion for the person's story, whereas a medical model is about the person and what's wrong with them. A trauma-informed model is about the person, the trauma that's happened to them, whereas a compassion-informed approach is about what we're doing within us. So we're holding compassion and love for that person as we're alongside them. And for me, it's also about holding on to a level of humility or humbleness in our listening. So all of us in our lives are experts in certain things. So a psychiatrist, a psychologist, a mental health nurse, they're an expert in the medical model. So that's the frame and the expertise they have with which to deal with things. So they're presented with a problem and they're going to offer their expertise, their medical model, their diagnosis, because that's what they have. So that's what gets put on the person. Somebody like myself, I radical Marxist social worker is going to offer a framework through which structures of power and imbalances in society are the reason for the distress. Somebody's father who was really good at football in their life and their kids lost a game of footy and they've had a horrible game is going to be an expert in, well, what you should have done was stay behind the ball, etc., etc. And they're going to offer that because that's what they've got. And what we're talking about is holding on to that and not putting what we think is our expertise on somebody else's story, but the expertise itself being alongside the person, not putting what we have to put into the situation onto the other.
Yeah.
Giving the space for somebody to express what they need to express. Yeah, people have their own expert knowledge on their things, given them enough time, space to talk about it or think about it.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, right. Your story was nothing to do with my concept of radical social work. Your story was to do with you. And you're the expert in you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think as he was saying that, Bernie, I was thinking, so, and then thinking about what Rory's saying. So if I can really manage my experience and just remember that I love you as a human being, then I'll just accept and believe you because you're the only one that knows your story. And I think that's a part of what I experience in the idea of if I can hold compassion and I can hold all my wisdom, knowing that that's my wisdom and my stories and my learnings, I wonder what that person's is. And so first, if I start by believing them and recognising that the story they've got is their wisdom, then I don't need to do so much. Well, I certainly don't need to do anything to them. I certainly don't need to lay labels on them. And I certainly don't need to apply risk assessments to them. And actually, that's really relieving as a listener. It's like, I can just try and cleanly listen to you. Oh, yeah, you're quite lovely, really. Whatever story someone's telling, I'm not burdened by that. I just can enjoy being in human relationship.